Hello, and welcome to the third video on equity-minded faculty evaluation from the Center for Inclusive Excellence at San Diego State University. My name is Lot Hill, and I am the Faculty Learning and Development Specialist in the Center for Inclusive Excellence. And in this video, my colleague Nora Schultz and I will review recommendations for how you can practice equity-minded faculty evaluation. Nora?
Thanks. I am a professor of sociology, and I also serve as the director of inclusive curriculum in the Center for Inclusive Excellence. So to begin our recommendations, we have this set up in three different sections. Next slide. The first section is prior to deliberations. And having been a chair of one of these committees, I find this to be really important. So this first set of recommendations that we have, again, should take place prior to your first committee meeting where you're going to go over people's packages. So to begin, reflect on SDSU's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the University Senate policy file to help orient your evaluation perspective, particularly, quote, to promote human dignity, civility, and mutual appreciation for the uniqueness of each member of our community.
We also recommend prior to deliberation that everyone on the committee recognize and accept that everyone is subject to the influence of bias and assumptions, and avoid considering yourself or any individual as objective.
And each member and everyone should ensure representation from multiple and diverse perspectives on P&T committees, because research shows that diversity in gatekeeping positions leads to improved diversity outcomes.
Also, prior to deliberation, committees should establish group norms or ground rules, ideally in an in-person or asynchronous meeting prior to deliberation, agreeing on the ground rules or the group norms.
Prior to deliberations, you want to make sure that the committee members know how to avoid colorblind and genderblind approaches.
And we also recommend discussing the criteria that the committee will use before evaluating candidates and apply the criteria consistently.
The second set of recommendations have to do with while you're reviewing your materials. So while you're reviewing your materials, you really need to devote sufficient time and attention to evaluating the candidates.
Please take notes. Do not rely on memory.
And also make sure you evaluate the entire package of each candidate. It's time consuming, but it's very important.
Also, resist the temptation of comparing a candidate to others by focusing on the evaluation criteria as established.
And remember that your own expertise and experiences may not necessarily be a reliable point of comparison. Some candidates may have materials that reflect very different life histories and paths than those that are familiar to you.
And to that end, also consider the relevance and significance of the candidate's work for our students, institution, and community, and not only for their intended scholarly audience.
Another critical point when reviewing materials is that you document with evidence your reasoning behind every decision. You triangulate your evidence, meaning using 3 examples or sources whenever possible.
Also, be aware that rubrics or similar evaluation tools can give a false sense of objectivity. Consider whether evaluation tools are being created and implemented equitably.
And our last set of recommendations have to do with during the deliberations. Be sure and consider how the different power and status of committee members actually shape your group discussion.
As extensive research has indicated various problems inherent in student course evaluation tools, please keep in mind that bias often influences student assessment of teaching.
And do know that while that quantitative metrics alone, the sort of things that we often look at, like impact factors and citations and student opinion scores, can really be insufficient, misleading, and really magnify structural biases against minoritized faculty members.
Do use qualitative statements to help contextualize the impact of a faculty member's work, as well as to fully understand the workload required for different types of research, teaching, and service activities.
And so think about the context for a candidate's choice of journals, publishers, or teaching methods. And think about how these contribute to the overall strategy for impact.
Consider justifiable differences on whether faculty make contributions through individual versus collaborative efforts. Some fields rely more on teams to be successful than others.
Slide. And be open to how different candidates may prioritize relative growth in research, teaching, and service areas based on both personal and situational circumstances. So current events changing research focus, increased teaching and service activities due to understaffing.
And finally, during deliberations, use an inclusive rather than an exclusive decision-making process, such as considering why a candidate should be granted tenure or promotion rather than considering why they should be denied. This will cause evaluators to pay more attention to the merits of individual candidates and less attention to their membership in a specific demographic group. Thank you so much for viewing these 3 videos on equity-minded faculty evaluation. We hope that if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you will reach out directly to us. And we hope you have good luck in evaluating faculty.
Thanks so much.